Welcome to another black screen. And mostly this is just a discussion thing, there's no video, just audio. There's no point putting a video on it really, and I don't like editing. It's stressful. I only do it like once every month or so, like, I don't know. Or every few months actually technically. But yeah, anyway, this title this says, Everybody's Right. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a long time actually, and it's why I don't like politics, and specifically political positioning and hierarchy. So, you've got people who align with a certain position, and then you've got people who are in the hierarchy, basically, where you've got MPs, you've got essentially nepotism, I think, in some cases. And there's like positions below that as well, like the people who cover out the people who are in bed with the politicians, essentially. Like, obviously, Elon Musk and Trump doing like fucking gay shit together, pretty much. But this is the point, really. I think everyone has their own idea of who's right and what is the right thing. But the problem is, everyone has the idea, and because people are not so willing to let it go, they just don't really. I don't know how to describe it. Basically, it clouds judgment, it clouds reasoning when you try to push home a point and you're not actually 100% sure about it. It just muddies the waters. And one of the things that really pushed that point home with me is like multiple things actually. It's like the J.K. Rowling thing, where she celebrated a Supreme Court ruling, I think it was, where essentially transgender women can't identify as a female sex, and to me that's bullshit. I think it always will be. And the reason I believe it's a bad sort of ruling is because you can't really define sex, and it's made me realise something else, ironically, with like freedom. It's funny enough going back because of One Piece again. Because I'm watching the Wano arc on episode 985, 995, I think. Yeah, 95. We just met a character, spoilers, who appears to be a trans man, which is amazing. I wasn't expecting that because we already had sort of feminine characters and also someone who literally transitions them. Like Ivankov, a fucking amazing character. Um, damn carbs dying distracted me. Yeah, like freedom. Like, think about what that actually means. Because I think everyone's definition will vary. And I say it'll vary because some people will think freedom is essentially being able to do what you want within a given like, line that's sort of defined or whatever. There's some sort of line that you draw in freedom, which isn't freedom, fundamentally. Because the definition very much doesn't have that. I'll look up now just to double check. Freedom definition, that's quite self-explanatory. The power of right to speak or act as or think as one wants. And it's also like the second definition here, according to Oxford, the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. But that's freedom. And it does mean good and bad things happen. And it's the same in One Piece. Ironically, it's, I don't know what you call it, the epitome of freedom. It really emphasises that essentially with how people pick and choose what they want to do and they oppress others, but it's not actually freedom. And ironically, even with good guys like Luffy and stuff, but they're not technically all good people. And I think that's generally true. The reason we like them is because they're trying to be good people. And ironically, you can't be 100% a good person, you can't be perfect, because there's always a consequence to that. And trying to be a good person, ironically, means you have to be bad to someone. Like, that's a mind-blowing thing to even think about. But it goes sort of deeper, because when thinking about existence, when I have like existential crisis and stuff, like, I dread the day that I'll sort of suffering my deathbed, but something that's probably going to happen anyway. It got me thinking about how we even got to this point anyway as humanity. And what sort of nature do we actually live in before roofs over our head and sustainable sources of everything, really. And the truth is that that was actually freedom to an extent. It's freedom for the person who's strongest, and that is something that sort of sucks as well. And ironically, like cis men like myself have it a lot easier in society anyway. Because a lot of the people who are impressed and unfortunately enslaved, they don't really get a say in it. And that's because of dominance of cis men. Yeah, it fucking sucks. I can't stand that. Like with nature and stuff, like how we were before all of this, before we could even talk for that matter, in a language that we can universally understand, it's terrifying to think about. And it's strange how this sort of ties into like politics and stuff. There is no such thing as freedom, technically speaking. We're all sort of enslaved to something as well, for that money, and this is really where essentially like you can't actually like definitions don't actually mean anything if you look at it fundamentally. And ironically that as well. So like nothing has meaning, and life does feel like a cool joke as well. I was also thinking about this with Final Fantasy XIV because there was a story about tempering where basically living beings can get under the influence of primal influence and essentially can't see anything else but primals, and they worship primals and try to summon them. And we're going on a quest in like Shadowbringers to sort of stop that sort of spoilery. I imagine most people have played anyway, or maybe not interested. And we free this goblin, I think they're goblins. The one like Gabu is. But we free them, and they come to the realization that they cause so much harm by being under the influence of primals. It's only until we rescue them that they realise that, and it's like, holy shit, that's kind of dark. Get free from one thing just to be put into another hell. But it just kind of sucks, and that's kind of a metaphor for life anyway. Every time you solve a problem, there's going to be more that come up. That's why it's often bullshit that some people can appear happy and live stress-free lives. Even those who are better off, like billionaires and stuff, like they don't have to worry about a thing, but they probably do. So it's kind of shitty as well. So I think the other thing to sort of bring up is all about like the Supreme Court ruling with obviously the transgender women not being able to identify as cis women. Um, Like the thing with that is apparently it's all to do with bias. The people who deem that ruling or whatever, they were they had a bias, and that means that there wasn't any sort of external factor. Like they didn't make the decision on behalf of someone, they made it for themselves. And if we have people like this in charge, and this is why I hate political hierarchy, then nobody's safe. There's always going to be bad, and the right to protest and stuff is important. And it reminds me of this because it sort of ties into it as well. But if you're not allowed to protest, then how do you expect anything to be good? It's a simple question, but it's something that requires a pretty complex answer. Because what you define as good and bad is also sort of a slippery slope, and it's based on personal bias. Whether you like something or not, it's all down to the people. You either have to find a middle ground, or at least keep things loose so that people don't suffer. And to me, I think that's my definition of good. It's when people don't suffer. And it goes with people I disagree with fundamentally. So yeah, and again, it sort of ties into that thing like everybody's right because they have their own idea of what it is. And strangely enough, I do have to listen to like politics every now and then because of the people I know. And like, I felt really uncomfortable about that when they brought up fucking Elon Musk and Trump. Like, it's just a horrific situation as well. But luckily, it wasn't like some sort of, oh yeah, I agree with them. It's definitely a disagree, but it's like, I'd rather not hear. Because it just fucking sucks. But nobody should have that much power and influence. I think everyone should be on equal grounds to an extent, as long as we're able to get by. Like things that are more like hard jobs to do, for that matter. But I often think about this as well because of how I just don't like the hierarchies and stuff. Ironically, CEOs think that we can't live in a world without them, but we probably can. And that's something we have to try, because we don't know until we try. Simple as that. And like, if people can live like, even like a sort of middle class of life, then it's sort of worth it. Like, everyone should be equally paid, everyone should be equally treated, for that matter. So, like, if people want equal standing grounds and stuff, then they'll probably have less problems. And we'll probably talk to each other more, which I feel is important as well. But I could be wrong, and it's, again, something that has to be tried. I think life is just trial and error, anyway. Yeah, it's sort of a grim topic, but that's sort of my conclusion on that. At the moment, I'm not feeling very well mentally. It does sort of get me thinking a lot and leads me to dark places. It's pretty much unavoidable though, until the NHS can get off their ass. Yeah, thanks for listening, and hopefully people find that interesting. See you everyone another time.